Hi, welcome to the Fraser's hamstring lengthening video. It is completely and utterly gluten free and as far as I can tell has no peanuts in it either. So throughout this video we're going to be talking about different movements to do to help with the lengthening of the hamstrings. With each movement, keep the movements to about 5 or 10 and concentrate on doing the movements at about 80 or 90% of your effort. In other words, don't try to do them all out. This is not an exercise. What you're trying to do is teach your muscles to relax and soften and allow them to lengthen out rather than trying to stretch them. Stretching does not do you a lot of good. And in fact, stretching can sometimes put you in a position to actually injure yourself. So keep the movements light and soft and easy. And remember to take the rests as you need them. There is no point in straining yourself for these movements. You'll get no benefit from straining. So lie on your back, lie down flat on the floor, and just lightly roll your head from side to side, just to get an idea of the tension. So very, very softly, very lightly, just to get an idea of the tension you may be holding in your neck, in your head, and your shoulders. Just do it lightly. Roll your head left to right, and then lightly roll your feet. So your feet roll inwards and outwards, so inwards towards each other and outwards. And again, it's just to get an idea of how much you can move at this point, how much your feet move, how much tension you're holding, how easy it is to roll your legs in and out. Now, keeping your head on the floor, lift your right leg up to a 90-degree angle. So your hip is at 90 degrees and your knee is at 90 degrees. And put your right palm very lightly on your knee. So hip at 90 degrees, knee at 90 degrees, and your palm very lightly on your knee. And just 2 or 3 times, very lightly, straighten your leg, straighten your right leg. So your head is on the floor, your left leg is out straight, your right knee is up at 90 degrees to your hip is 90 degrees to the floor, and just slowly, easily, 2 or 3 times, just to check how far you can easily straighten your right leg. And again, in that position, with your leg bent at 90 degrees and your palm resting on your knee, straighten and bend the leg very lightly, and at the same time try and reach up with your hand. So you straighten your foot up and your right hand slides up your shin towards your right foot. So as you straighten your foot, reach up towards your foot very lightly and easily. Do that a few times. And again, you're not trying to actually straighten your leg. It's just as if you were going to straighten your leg. And as you're doing that, slowly start to do it while raising your head as well. And notice how that takes you a little bit further. So you straighten your leg, reach up with your arm and lift your leg up as well. But again, nice and lightly, nice and easily. Just a few times. Now lay back down with your legs straight, both legs straight at the moment, and put your left hand under the middle of your back, having the spine rest on your wrist. So your left hand goes under your back. You may have to roll your pelvis up a little to allow your hand to get underneath. And then have your lower spine rest on your wrist. And then bring your knee up and knee and hip up to the same position before with your right hand resting on your knee. And repeat that movement of straightening your leg and reaching up to your foot. And notice how that is a little bit different now that your spine is being stretched. That's a little bit different way to do it. And again, nice and easy. You can do a couple with your head on the ground and then try a couple with your head lifting up, and just see how far you can go easily. And if you're straining and your breathing is being cut off, then you're doing too much. Just watch your breathing and make sure you can keep breathing as you do this. Don't cut your breathing off. And again, a few times. And then take your arm out and straighten your knees on the floor. Now this time, lift your knee up to 90 degrees. With your right hand behind your knee, holding behind the knee. And this time just roll your pelvis backwards and forwards. So that means that your back, when it's rolling back, your back will come down onto the floor. And then when you're rolling forwards, your pelvis will move up. So your back will come up away from the floor, your lower back, and your pelvis will move down toward the ground. Just roll backwards and forwards a few times, holding your knee. And keep doing that movement. And as you continue to do that movement, you'll notice that as you roll your pelvis forward, that is, as your back comes up, you'll notice your knee, left knee, lifts up. So as you do this now, as you push your pelvis forward, push your knee down, the opposite of what it's trying to do. So as your back lifts up, your pelvis goes forward, push your knee, your left knee, into the ground. So straighten your left knee out as you roll your pelvis forward. And again, just a few times. As we go through this one, initially we'll be only working on the right side. The reason for that is so your body gets an opportunity to see the difference between the two sides. So roll your pelvis forward, press the knee down, left knee down. So this time, after you've had a quick rest, straighten yourself out. Lie down on your left side with your left leg bent, and approximately 90 degrees just to keep your balance, with your left arm under your head so your head is supported, and then grab your right ankle with your right hand and then straighten your right knee out from that position. So you're lying on your left, arm supporting your head, then grab your right ankle with your right hand. And again, if you can't reach your right ankle, just reach a bit further up your shin. It doesn't have to be at your ankle. If you practice this lightly and enough, you will easily reach down to your ankle eventually anyway. Don't force it. Nice and light. Keep the movements easy. And then just straighten and bend your leg just in that position. Straighten your leg out to where it's comfortable and pull it back while holding your ankle. Just stop and rest for a second. Now this time, same position, and as you extend your right knee, so in this position, extend your right knee and rotate your hip inwards. So in other words, you turn your foot so the toe faces down. So you turn your hip around and your toe will go towards the ground. Your knee will also go towards the ground, but do the movement in your hip, not in your foot. Your foot will naturally follow the direction of the hip. Again, just do that a few times. If you need to, take a moment and rest on your back. And again, as before, lie on your left side. And this time, as you straighten your knee, rock your pelvis forward. So you take your knee forward, your leg forward, sorry, holding your ankle, lying on your left side, right hand, right ankle, hold your leg out as straight as is comfortable, and then rock your pelvis backwards and forwards. Remember, the forwards for the pelvis is the back moving, or the belly button coming out, lower back moving. So you rock your pelvis backwards and forwards, holding your foot outwards. So you hold your leg out, and then rock your pelvis backwards and forwards. So just hold it and then rock it. And you'll notice your pelvis will not move very much in this position. It'll be a very, very small movement. It'll be very small. It doesn't have to be big. And don't force it. Just notice how your back has to move in order to do that. Notice what happens in your hamstrings. You'll also notice with these movements that we're extending the hamstring at the proximal and the distal. And what that means is we're extending the hamstring at both ends. Proximal is close, which is down near your butt, and the distal is far, which is down near your knee. And we're stretching the hamstrings, or allowing the hamstring to lengthen at both those positions. Now, in this same position, keep your right leg straight and keep your pelvis forward as you turn your hip in and out. So again, on your left side, straighten your leg out, push your pelvis forward, hold it forward, so hold your belly button forward, and tilt your hip in and out. So left and right, I suppose would be one way to say it. So your toe points to the ground and then back, toe points to the ground and back, with your pelvis in the forward position. So forward position, and turn your hips in and out, in and out. And again, nice and easy, 5 to 10 times each time. And then bring your leg back for a second, just for a bit of a rest. Now this time, combine all of these movements together. So what you'll be doing is what we've just done, but doing them all as one movement. So you push your pelvis forward, you straighten your knee, and you rotate your hips in and out. So as you push your pelvis forward, you straighten your knee out and you rotate your hips in. As you come back, your pelvis comes back, your knee comes back, and you rotate your hips out. Do it all. Try to get it all in one movement, or you'll find it a little bit strange at first as you do it. Give it a few tries, and again, try to do it lightly. Don't try and do it in a big push. Do it very lightly and easily, and you'll find that you can do the movement all together as one movement. So you push your pelvis forward as you straighten your knee and as you rotate your hips inwards. Take the time to do that nice and softly and easily. Again, you might notice that you'll feel this in both ends of your hamstrings. And again, don't push it too hard. And take a moment to rest on your back, just for a second. Just get that easy. And this time, sit on the ground with your hands behind you, your legs out straight. You may want to keep your feet a little bit wider rather than have them close together. Have your feet a little bit apart, maybe shoulder width or a little bit more. and then roll your pelvis backwards and forwards. So you're sitting on the ground with your hands behind you, legs apart, and just roll your pelvis back and forth. So your pelvis will go forward, that means your belly button goes forward, pelvis goes back, and your lower back drops down. So pelvis, and think of your pelvis moving. So your pelvis rocks over, coccyx goes higher, as it goes forward, and then your coccyx comes back. Now see if you can repeat that movement sitting up and putting your hands lightly on your knees. Same movement, but in the sitting up position. See if you can do it that way. You'll notice that as you move your pelvis forward, your knees will come up. So this time continue rocking your pelvis, and instead of letting your knees come up, see if you can push your knees so they go down as you push your pelvis forward. So as your pelvis rolls forward, begin to push your knees down. Do that a few times, and then keep your pelvis rocking forward and back, and this time as you push forward, let your feet roll inwards. So you push your pelvis forward and your feet roll in towards, so your toes roll in towards each other. Push your pelvis forward, your toes roll in towards each other. Pelvis forward, roll your toes in towards each other. And again, try this in a couple of different positions. Try it with your legs further apart and determine whether it feels easier or harder for you. So try a little bit further out, try a little bit closer in, and see if that makes it easier or harder. What does it do for you? How does it allow you to make your back move easier or harder? And if you need to, have a quick rest on your back. Now stand in a comfortable position with your feet about shoulder width apart, or thereabouts, somewhere where it's nice and comfortable. And bend down to grab your ankles, and as you do that, allow your knees to bend. You're not doing a touch your toes movement, just allow your knees to bend so you can easily get down and touch your ankles. And as you do that, begin to straighten and bend only the right leg. So you're down holding both ankles, and you're just straightening the right leg and bending the right leg, straightening the right leg and bending the right leg, so it's nice and comfortable. And you'll notice how this affects your pelvis, how your pelvis feels as it rolls. It'll roll around to the right. And just notice how that affects the movement in your pelvis, movement in your back. Straighten and bend just your right leg. And again, nice and lightly. If you can't completely straighten your leg, then don't. Keep it a little bent. It's really not that important. The important thing is to be sending the message to your central nervous system about what you want. Now, focus on putting all of your weight on your right foot and continue to straighten and bend your right leg. So all your weight is now on your right foot, and your left leg, your left foot is light. So all your weight on your right foot and straighten. And after you've done that a few times, put all your weight on the left foot, or the other way around. It doesn't matter which way you started, but then put all your weight on your other foot, and again straighten and bend. your right knee only. Again, notice what happens to your hip and your pelvis and your back as you're straightening that, how it moves through your system. Now this time, as you straighten your leg, without really moving your foot too much, rotate your hip in as you did when you were lying down. So you bend down and you keep hold of your ankles, and as you straighten your leg, rotate your hip in at the same time. It's a little bit, you'll find it a little bit difficult at first. It's a little bit funny to rotate your hip like this way. So you rotate your hip in, and you'll have a bit of struggle at first, but you'll get it. You'll notice the difference in the movement of the hip now. It does a little bit different movement than it did before. Your pelvis moves a little bit differently than it did before. And just do that until you can lightly get it. And now, in the same position, now push your pelvis backwards and forwards. So you're holding your ankles, knees are slightly bent so you can be comfortable. And see if you can push your pelvis backwards and forwards. And there will be more movement in your lower back than there will be in your pelvis. There'll be very, very little movement in your pelvis at all. But see if you can concentrate the movement in your pelvis. And just do that a few times. And once again, combine all the movements into one. So you straighten your knee, you push your pelvis forward, and you rotate your hip in this position. So you're holding your ankles, straighten your knee, at the same time as pushing your pelvis forward, and turning your hip in. It'll feel very strange. But again, keep it light. You're not trying to get to the end of your stretch. Just keep it light and easy, light and easy. And just take a moment to stand up and walk around a little, see how it feels, see how your back feels, see if you can notice the difference between one side and the other, between your right side and your left side. And just notice. And when you've done that, lie back down on the ground and repeat the original test movement we did at the start, and see if you can notice a difference. So you lie down with one leg straight, pelvis at a 90-degree angle, knee at a 90-degree angle, and your right hand lightly on your knee, and just see if you can lift. See if there's any change in the ease of the movement. You may not have changed the distance you can move it, but now it might be easier. I'll give you an idea of what you can do once you've practiced this a few times, and how much you can improve on the amount you move. Okay, thank you, and good night.